Don't ruin your life. Don't give advice to friends about a romantic relationship. Regarding this particular advice, a romantic relationship is one where actual or potential sexual activity is involved. Your friend's romantic relationship partner could be a boyfriend or girlfriend, a fiancé, or a husband or wife. Regarding such relationships, never offer advice for or against continuing the relationship. Don't give such advice even if asked to. Don't even give an opinion that could be construed as for or against continuing the relationship. Whatever their problem is, let them work it out. The reasons for keeping quiet are as follows. 1. If your friend asks for advice on a relationship matter, you won't get an objective account of the situation. You'll get your friend's subjective, one-sided view. Any bad behavior or questionable actions on your friend's part will probably be left out, so any advice you give will be based on skewed information. 2. You'll never have truly complete information about your friend's relationship. You won't know all the personal quirks and failings of your friend or of his or her partner. You won't know the positive and negative aspects of their private interactions, especially those of a sexual nature. You won't know all the things that happened in the past that are affecting the current situation. A single missing detail could be enough to completely change your view of their relationship. 3. When sex is involved, people's thinking and behavior are distorted by emotions, hormones, past history, quirks, and personal expectations. Sexual relationships have a large component of irrationality. As an example, consider this conversation, some version of which has probably occurred thousands of times in real life. Maria, he beat you up? How can you stay with this guy? Elizabeth, because I love him. Here's another. Frank, your girlfriend stole $1,000 from your account. You should dump her. Ben, I can't. I love her. Where sexual attraction is involved, any advice that you give based on rational thinking will be competing against irrational emotions. 4. No matter what advice you give, there are only two possible results. Possibility 1. Your friend does not follow your advice. In my experience, this is the most likely possibility. Your friend will most likely listen to your advice and then do whatever he or she previously intended to do, or will revert to doing what he or she usually does. Generally, this will absolve you of any responsibility for whatever happens in the future, but you've wasted your breath in giving advice. Possibility 2. Your friend does follow your advice. However, he or she may 1. Follow your advice exactly, or 2. Follow a modified version of your advice that fits his or her personality, patience, and needs. But even if your friend follows your advice in exact or modified form, he or she may only follow it for a short time, thus preventing it from taking effect. Regardless of which version of your advice your friend follows, exact, shortened, modified, or modified shortened, it will be remembered as the advice you gave. If things go well in the relationship, that's wonderful. You can be secretly happy that you contributed to a positive result. But in a good outcome, your friend will be inclined to take overall credit personally and not give credit to your advice. It's human nature. If things go badly in the relationship, your friend may look for someone to share the blame, which could be you and your advice. This means you'll always be associated with the bad outcome. The point is, after you give your advice, it's likely that you'll get little or no credit if things turn out well, but you may actually be blamed if things turn out badly. In case the situations above are too abstract, I'll give 2 specific examples of how giving advice regarding a romantic relationship can work against you, regardless of whether or not it's followed. Example A. You advise your friend Ed to break up with Stephanie. Ed does not take your advice and instead stays with Stephanie. Ed and Stephanie work things out, eventually get married, and are now very happy. Good for them. As it happens, you and Ed and Stephanie are all still friends. But Ed remembers your advice to dump Stephanie, who is now his wonderful wife, and he'll never forget it. Ed now thinks you're the wrong person to give advice about anything important. As for Stephanie, if she ever learns that you advised Ed to dump her, you'll be on a certain list of hers permanently. Example B. Just like the previous scenario, you advise your friend Ed to break up with Stephanie. This time, Ed does take your advice and dumps Stephanie. Stephanie eventually meets another man, marries him, and the two are very happy together. Your friend Ed, still single, may look at Stephanie's happy marriage and imagine himself in that situation. Ed will never forget your advice to dump Stephanie. His unhappiness due to wondering how life might have been with Stephanie is at least partly your fault. As in the previous example, the result is the same. Ed now sees you as the wrong person to give advice about anything important. I recognize the great temptation to respond when a friend asks for relationship advice. You want to help. You think you may have valuable insight. If you absolutely can't resist getting involved, then don't give direct pro or con relationship advice. Instead, ask questions that lead your friend to figure out the answers on his or her own. You'll have a much better chance of maintaining your relationship with both people, no matter what happens. How can not following this advice about someone else's relationship ruin your own life? If you give such advice to a family member, and your advice is ultimately perceived as bad, it could cause long-term family relationship problems. If such advice is given to a friend and it results in a bad outcome for a friend who is crucial to your enjoying a better life, any blame you receive could negatively affect your future. The bottom line, if you can't possibly know all the relevant and crucial information about your friend's relationship, and therefore can't give truly sound and objective advice, and if you'll likely get minimal credit for advice leading to a good outcome, and if you'll likely get blamed for advice leading to a bad outcome, why open your mouth? A final note. There is an exception to this advice. If your friend's romantic interest is a criminal or violent, or habitually uses any sort of drug, or has any obvious major problems like these, you could justifiably advise breaking up the relationship, but only if you're willing to lose the friendship. On the other hand, if your friend isn't smart enough to figure out this problem himself or herself, this might not be a bad thing.